Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Adam Lemerise, and with me, as always, is Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. A special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deshelle, and welcome back, Miss Robin. Thank you for investing in Grid Network. Link to our Patreon in the video description below. And please, feel free to comment in the chat room below and ask any questions. Tonight we'll discuss the young driver under FIA investigation for a gesture he made on a podium, Matt White's grid history update, and concerns that Indycar could run out of time to have 33 starters on the grid for the 106th Indy 500 this May. We'll start off discussing a 15-year-old karting driver from Russia who right now is in very hot water.
Yeah, hot water, and this boy is in a heap of trouble. Early in the week, video emerged from a podium celebration of 15-year-old Russian karting driver Artem Severiukhin after he won a race in the FIA Karting European Championship in Portugal. Severiukhin stood on the top step of the podium where it appears that he made a Nazi salute and laughs immediately after the fact. Footage courtesy of the FIA. And speaking of the FIA, they released a statement saying they've launched an immediate investigation into the unacceptable conduct that occurred on the podium, and they're planning to take some sort of action soon. Severiukhin was competing under the Italian flag because, according to the FIA response to the Russian invasion in Ukraine, all drivers and teams from Russia and Belarus wouldn't be able to represent their countries flag or colors, but they're allowed to compete under a neutral flag. And Severiukhin's karting team, Ward Racing, released their own statement. Ward Racing condemned his behavior in the strongest terms possible, separating themselves from the driver. They said his actions on the podium were exclusively individual and does not represent the views and values of the team in any manner. Ward Racing emphasized they stand with the international community condemning the Russian invasion. To support Ukraine, the team has been sporting no war helmets and stickers. Plus, they actually have 3 Ukrainian families traveling with them because they can't go home to their war-torn country. Being a Swedish team, they're proud of their country, Sweden, for stepping up and providing the Ukrainian military with weapons to use against the invaders, the Russian military. The team went on to add that Severiukhin's actions were examples of unsportsmanlike behavior and an unacceptable violation of ethical and moral sports codex. As a result, Ward Racing saw no way forward with Severiukhin as their karting driver, so they decided to release him from his contract and completely part ways with the 15-year-old Russian driver. And Severiukhin released an apology video on social media denying the claims that he made a Nazi salute.
My name is Artem Severiukhin, and I want to apologize to everyone for what happened yesterday at the European Karting Championship. Standing on the podium, I made a gesture and many perceived it as a Nazi salute. This is not true. I have never supported Nazism and consider it one of the worst crimes against humanity. But I raced under an Italian license and won under Italian flag. And the guys in front of the podium showed me that in Italy, in such cases, it's not a customary to hit yourself on the chest in the heart area, showing gratitude. I just wanted to make the gesture, and how everything else happened, I cannot explain. I know that I'm quality. I know that I'm full and I'm ready to be punched, but please believe that there was no intention in my actions. There was no support for Nazism or fascism. There was no desire to offend spectators, fans, athletes, or the team, and all those who watch the broadcast. Excuse me.
Adam, do you think this 15-year-old kid can recover from this incident, or did he most likely end his professional racing career by making such a gesture on the podium?
Well, Kobe, when he did that, it kind of reminded me of, World War II, because of what happened in Germany with one of the greatest villains in history, Adolf Hitler. I think that 15-year-old racing career is over. I know he just played the video from his apology, but after what he did, it's going to be hard to recover from that. So to me, I think his racing days are over, and hopefully he learned his lesson after this incident that got him into a lot of hot water. People remember that from World War II, and we all know that was one of those brutal wars in history. So hopefully this 15-year-old learned his lesson, and he won't do that ever again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he won't do that ever again, but the damage has already been done and it's way too late for him. Like you were saying, I know he's 15 years old. I know he's just a kid. I know he just started his racing career, but that action he did on the podium was completely unacceptable. It was hurtful and offensive to many, especially people in the Jewish community, thinking, about the Holocaust, World War II, as you mentioned, and all of the pain and the destruction and evil caused by Adolf Hitler, and looking at the current Russian invasion that's going on right now with all of these innocent Ukrainian people who are just being slaughtered and their lives are being ruined forever, families been split apart, people who did not ask for a war like this, and it's just super disrespectful to do such a gesture like this. And this isn't the first Russian athlete to do such a thing. Shortly after the Russian invasion in Ukraine began, a Russian gymnast named Ivan Kulyak, he wore the letter Z on the front of his outfit that he was wearing at a gymnast competition. And for those who don't know, the letter Z is a symbol representing support of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and some people even consider it the modern day Nazi swastika, the letter Z that you also see on the Russian military equipment if you're paying attention to the news. And for Artem to do this, it was a stupid, foolish mistake, and he certainly has to pay the consequences for it, even if it means that he'll no longer be allowed to compete again in professional auto racing. And a follow-up question for you, Adam. The FIA has faced a lot of criticism for having a weaker response to the Russian invasion compared to other sporting bodies around the world. Do you think they need to send a strong message this time by potentially issuing this kid an unprecedented lifetime ban?
Yeah, Colby, and you were mentioning the Holocaust, and when I think back to that, one of my favorite books comes to mind. I read this in school. The book was called Night by a man named Eli Wiesel, and talked about the Holocaust in Auschwitz. And for our viewers watching who have never read that book, I highly recommend it because it'll bring tears to your eyes. I still remember reading that book, and I think what the FIA should do is they should ban him. And you were mentioning, to me, that's not what he did was uncalled for, unjustifiable. It's just sad to see. You know, like talked about World War II, Adolf Hitler. I think that kid should be. I think the FIA should put a stand and ban this 15-year-old from ever competing in motorsports again. Sad. It's sad to see what this kid did, and now he has to pay for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said, Adam. You have to make an example out of someone, and I think that FIA deserved every bit of criticism that they're getting because, yeah, I'm glad they took some sort of action to respond to what happened as other sporting bodies around the world did. But if you look at the FIA, their response has been the weakest yet. So I think it's time for them to drop the hammer hard and ban this kid because this action is unacceptable. And for any other driver who thinks they can just go up on the podium and make such a salute like that, they'll think twice because they don't want to throw away their entire racing career. And it's a real shame because I've been following this kid coming up, and it seems like he had potential to be a really good race car driver, and it seems like he's just but ruined his whole career path right here. But it was totally unexcusable. You cannot justify what he did up there on the podium, and he has to pay the price for it, even if he's issued this unprecedented lifetime ban, as I said, and going back to using the Nazi salute itself. And since the Russian invasion, this goes into Kremlin-backed propaganda in a Russian disinformation campaign because the Russian President Vladimir Putin, when he said that the Russian military would be undergoing what he calls a special military operation, he said that the Russian troops were going into Ukraine to eliminate the neo-Nazis. So to do that Nazi salute, Artem did, he's really playing into that propaganda where people in Russia, a lot of them are just being told lies and completely brainwashed about what's going on in Ukraine. And it's going to be interesting to see what the FIA's response is going to be to Artem because as we stated, they're currently investigating him, and we'll see if they're really going to lay down the law and really show Artem and everyone else who thought this was okay that they absolutely mean business. And a quick follow up news story unrelated to this particular situation: Italian authorities have seized property worth $114 million on the Sardinia seafront belonging to Russian oligarch Dmitry Mazepin and ex Formula One driver Nikita Mazepin, his son. Another hit for the Mazepins after getting sanctioned by the European Union, who said Dmitry's a member of Russian President Vladimir Putin's inner circle inside of the Kremlin. Meanwhile, Nikita made headlines in an interview with the BBC recently, voicing his displeasure with the sanctions and claims that Russia is a victim of cancel culture, and will continue providing updates on the impacts of the Russian invasion in motorsports right here at Grid Network.
And now switching over to some very awesome news. When the NASCAR Xfinity Series heads to the legendary Talladega Superspeedway next weekend, a lot of people will be paying attention to a certain last name, team, and number. For the first time since the July Xfinity race at Daytona, for the first time since 2010, when Dale Earnhardt Jr. won the July Xfinity race at Daytona, and Earnhardt will drive the historic number 3 car. With sponsorship from Forever Lawn, Jeffrey Earnhardt will get behind the wheel of the number 3 Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet, the Talladega. The same car number and team that his grandpa, the Intimidator, the late, great NASCAR Hall of Famer, Dale Earnhardt Sr., drove for many years. Once again, the Earnhardt name, RCR, and number 3 are back on the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway in Sweet Home, Alabama. And the graphic you see on the screen, courtesy of RCR. Now, for all of our viewers out there, and Kobe as well, what's your favorite Dale Earnhardt Sr. memory from Talladega?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. Actually, one of my favorite NASCAR races of all time, and I really hate that I wasn't able to watch Dale Earnhardt Sr. when he was competing. When Dale Sr. unfortunately lost his life on the final lap of the 2001 Daytona 500, I was just a baby. I wasn't even 2 years old when that incident happened, so I wasn't able to watch him compete live. sadly. But my favorite memory of Dale Earnhardt certainly has to be the 2001 EA Sports 500 at Talladega. His final win in the NASCAR Cup Series. It was so special. I've actually watched that race on YouTube multiple times because it is so good, very compelling. Some really good racing. And then with only a couple laps to go, Dale Sr. had to literally drive through the entire pack to get up to the front, and it was just a absolute magical race to watch him carve through the pack. And people have always said that Dale Earnhardt Sr. was different because he could see the drive, and he really could on that day, going from the back of the pack through mid pack all the way to the lead to win. And as they called him, Mr. Restrictor Plate, got one final win at Talladega and winning that Winston Million. It was just a real special moment.
Actually, Cody, it was the 2000 Winston 500 in which Dale Earnhardt Sr. won his last race. Went from 16th to 1st and won the Winston Million. And for those of you who haven't watched,
Oh, thanks for correcting me. Sorry, I got the year wrong there.
you're welcome. And actually, a really great announcer, Dr. Jerry Punch, was on the call from ESPN, and you can go online to watch that whole race. And that's actually my favorite moment as well. Nobody thought he could do this. Nobody. What he did. It's going to be, if I bet you now the Xfinity Series tickets are going to go through the roof, because Earnhardt is back driving the legendary number 3, and it's Jeffrey Earnhardt. I think he will make the show, and I think a lot of fans will be really happy to see him compete and to see how he does. And next, here's Kobe with some news about former NASCAR star turned IndyCar driver, Jimmie Johnson.
Oh, and Jimmie Johnson had quite a week on the streets of Long Beach, crashing 3 times during the entire weekend. I'm sure he was really glad to get back here on the East Coast. And last weekend on the streets of Long Beach, Jimmie Johnson suffered a fracture to his right hand in a practice crash. Johnson crashed into a tire barriers, didn't take his hands off the wheel in time. The wheel snapped around very quickly, causing Johnson to break his hand. Of course, they were able to wrap up the hand, and he ended up competing in the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach without any major issues. But after consulting with medical experts, Johnson decided to undergo surgery immediately and plans to be well enough to do the 2-day oval test at IMS next week and the race at Barber Motorsports Park on May the 1st. And the photos courtesy of the 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion himself, Jimmie Johnson.
Thanks, Kobe. And now to some news from Australia. 2-time Repco Supercross champion and current grid ranking leader Shane Van Gisbergen, unfortunately, will not be able to defend his victory this weekend at the Bathurst 6-hour endurance race. SVG tested positive for COVID-19. So fellow Supercars driver Nick Perkow will take his place. And news that just broke a little while ago, former Supercars driver Fabian Coulthard also tested positive for COVID-19, so he will not be able to compete in the TCR Australia race at Bathurst as well. So current Supercars driver Tim Slade will take his place in his car. On Twitter, Van Gisbergen said he'll be taking some rest and make sure he's well enough to compete at the next round of the Repco Supercars Championship, which is the Perth Super Night at Wanneroo Raceway in Australia. Next, here's our own Matt White with this week's Grid History Update.
Hi everybody, Matt White here. It's time for this week's results roundup from a very, very busy weekend across the world of motorsports. We'll start at Circuit of the Americas, where MotoGP was in action. Enea Bastianini getting his second win from the first 4 races in the big class. Tony Arbolino, the winner in Moto2, his first win in the class. And Jaume Masia getting another win in Moto3, his first of the season. At Long Beach, we had the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Joseph Newgarden won his second race on the spin, and Penske's third of the season to kick off the IndyCar season. He's all Penske in IndyCar so far this year. On Saturday evening, we had the IMSA race as per tradition, where Chip Ganassi got a second win in the road, first for the 0-1, Sebastian Bourdais and Renger van der Zande getting the victory there. Super Formula kicked off this weekend in Fuji. Hirakawa and Najiri getting a win each for the first round of Super Formula. At Martinsville, we had, fist flying and all manner of other things. Brandon Jones won that Xfinity race on Friday, where all the big headlines have come from the weekend. William Byron sweeping the Cup and truck races across the weekend as well. In Melbourne, the Australian Grand Prix was back. The first time since 2019. Charles Leclerc getting his second win of the year in Formula One. We had plenty of support action. Porsche Carrera Cup started down there for the first round for their season. Aaron Love getting 3 race victories and was on for the weekend sweeping race 4 before an accident. Harry Jones picking up the win there. S5000 also in action. Joey Mawson with 2 victories and Shay Davies the other. And in supercars, the wins were shared between Shane Van Gisbergen and Chaz Mostert. Double action for Formula E in Rome. Mitch Evans getting the victory in both races to get himself into title contention over the weekend. We started on 2 wheels, we'll finish on 2 wheels because World Superbike started their season at Aragon in Spain. Over the weekend, Jonathan Ray, trying to get his World Championship back, got off to the best start he could possibly have with a win on Saturday. But Alvaro Bautista, who was on Ducati a couple of years ago, went to Honda, it didn't work, he's back on Ducati, and he won both races on Sunday. Busy Easter weekend coming up. Happy Easter to everybody. It is a busy one. We've got the Bathurst 6 Hour, supported by TCR Australia and Trans Am at the mountain. The ELMS kicks off their season at Paul Ricard. It's the Bristol weekend for the dirt stuff for NASCAR as well. We'll give you all of the results from those and many more races next week. And just while we're here, don't forget to check out grid_history on Twitter, where every day we'll post a motorsport memory from time immemorial. We've had some classic IndyCar, some classic rallying and some classic MotoGP over the last few days, so be sure to keep abreast of that. And if we've got a link to the race from the Grid Video Vault, we'll make sure we post that in the tweet for your enjoyment. Back next week to wrap up an Easter weekend.
Thanks, Matt. And with the month of May getting closer, IndyCar is running out of time to complete the traditional field of 33. Seeing bump day drama in more than 33 entries are extremely unlikely at this point, but the priority is getting at least 33 cars to start the race. According to Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com, Junko's Hollinger Racing could enter a second car for the Indy 500 alongside the team's primary driver, Callum Ilott. However, they prefer that another team steps up to the plate with an additional entry, but they're willing to do it themselves if there are no other option. And there's a possibility that a second car from Junko's could be leased out to Dragon Speed if the chips fall accordingly. In the photo you see on the screen, taken by Travis Hinkle from Penske Entertainment, and linked to the article in the video description below. Is it bad for IndyCar if they can't fill the field of 33, or one less car doesn't really matter, putting modern tradition aside?
To not have a field of 33 at the Indy 500 would be kind of shocking, it'd be kind of sad, since everyone expects 33 cars to compete in the Indy 500 every year. We all remember, there's so much tradition with the Indy 500. You have bump day, which we may not have a bump day this year, which would be kind of weird, but hopefully someone will step up so we can have a 33 car field for the Indy 500. To me, it'd be kind of a shame if we didn't.
Well, Adam, we're thinking about bump day. We've actually gone quite a few years without having a bump day, so that's actually not going to be strange to me if we don't have it. We just won't have all the qualifying drama that we've had in recent years, with the most famous one being when Kyle Kaiser, ironically, was driving for Juncos in a number 32 when he bumped McLaren and Fernando Alonso out of the Indy 500. And that's one of the great parts about bump day, that nobody is locked in. Not even the defending series champion Alex Palou. If Alex Palou had a bad day, we have more than 33 cars in her, he could actually miss the 106 Indy 500. But right now, it doesn't look like we're going to reach 34 cars. I do think that IndyCar is going to find a way to reach the field of 33. So I'm not concerned that we're just going to have a 32 car field. I'd be willing to bet money that we're going to have 33 starters on Memorial Day weekend, when it's time for the 106th running of the greatest spectacle in racing. Yes, we definitely want to see the field of 33. But even if we had 32 cars, I don't think it's really going to change anything. Just one car missing from the grid, because we'd still be able to see the racing and enjoy the great tradition that is the Indianapolis 500, one of the biggest crown jewel racing events in the world, a race that drivers from all disciplines would love to enter and win someday. So I don't think having one less car, would really make much of a difference. But I do also agree at the same time that it would be sad if we can't have the field of 33. And after reading Marshall Port's article from racer.com, really nice to see that Hunko's Hollinger Racing is willing to really step up and help out IndyCar here. And from what I was reading, it really seems like that they're willing to do this if Roger Penske cannot find another team to enter Indy, that are willing to do this at an absolute last resort. But we don't really know what's going to happen within the next couple of weeks. But time is running out, chop chop. So whatever happens now is going to really need to come online within the next 2 weeks. I mean, we're gonna see the cars out on the track next week for the 2-day test at Indy, with the rookies doing the ROP reorientation program, and then all the veterans, and then everybody's gonna be on track. And then we have the race at Barber, the GMR Grand Prix on the Indy road course. Then we're gonna have the week of practice there and qualifying, carb day, and then will be time for the race. And another follow-up question for you, Adam. Considering this is IndyCar's healthiest season in a long time, with 26 cars running full time, are you surprised it's been a struggle to get 33 cars for the biggest race?
Yeah, I, I am surprised. Um, it's hopefully, like you mentioned, Kobe, Hunko's Hollinger Racing puts together a deal that will allow them to compete in the Indy 500. Yeah, I am surprised that it's been a struggle to find a 33rd car, to compete in the greatest spectacle in the world of motorsports. I mean, you mentioned, there's a lot of motorsports drivers from across the world that would love to compete in this race. You know, most of the time it depends on scheduling, with different series that people run every year, but I am surprised. It's been a struggle to find a car to be on the grid for this year's Indy 500.
Yeah, I really can't put my finger on it. Yeah, we should be celebrating that IndyCar has 26 cars running full time. No, we had an additional car at the Texas Motor Speedway when we had Ed Carpenter enter a third car for Ed Carpenter Racing. Yeah, really cool to see 27 cars on the High Bank Oval and 26 all year long, and we could have some additional entries later on in the season. So IndyCar almost having 30 cars competing full time, that it just really shows how healthy the series is right now on a large scale. But when you look at the Indy 500, you can't even get 33 cars to fill the biggest race. I really honestly cannot explain that one. It doesn't make sense to me. But whatever the issue is in the years ahead, hopefully they'll be able to make it easier for teams to get into the Indy 500, so we can have some more bump day drama, which is more than likely going to be missing this year.
Yeah. Um, Maybe Ed Carpenter Racing can do what they did at Texas and field a third car for the Indy 500. I don't know what drivers are available, but it's a shot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and Adam, Ed Carpenter Racing is actually going to be fielding 3 cars for the Indy 500. They're going to have VK Connor Daly and Ed Carpenter in a third entry, and I think running a fourth entry right now. That's just not in the cards for their organization. They'd really be stretching it thin, and this late in the game, trying to hire people with IndyCar experience and all of that, it's be really hard to try to put a program together this late. But whoever the final entry is, if we're able to get it, it's definitely going to be happening very fast, because the Indy 500, this is something you need to start preparing for months ahead of time, not 1 month ahead of time, just a couple of weeks before the biggest race in the world.
Oh, absolutely, Kobe. I will agree with you on that. And now moving over to some news from SRX. Last weekend at the Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida, the best drivers finishing a pair of super late model races received a very special prize. In addition, an invitation to the SRX race at the same track later this summer on June 18th, after finishing second and fourth. Short track oval superstar Bubba Wallace won the local legend SRX ride. Pollard has a lot of experience and success at this track, and reputation. Bubba Pollard, excuse me, Kobe. Pollard has a lot of experience and success at this track, and built a reputation as one of the greatest short track racers not to compete in NASCAR. Now, in front of a nationwide audience in prime time, everyone will get a chance to see Bubba Pollard show what he's got against some of the most successful drivers in motorsports. And be sure to visit Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.racing to cast your vote to see who will get a chance to race in that race as well. Some of the drivers are Brittany Zamora, Bubba Pollard, among others. And voting closes the first weekend of May, so be sure to get your vote in and to see who wins the race to compete at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway as a local legend. And now, switching over to some NASCAR Xfinity news. NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Ty Gibbs was fined $15,000 for making contact with another vehicle on pit road after the NASCAR Xfinity race at Martinsville Speedway last Saturday night. Not getting it, not for fighting with Sam Mayer on pit road, or an incident leading to a NASCAR official being injured. Xfinity is off this weekend, but the next time they're on the track is at the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway next Saturday. Don't expect Gibbs and Mayer to have any retaliation because of the speeds that'll be happening at Talladega. So if you're watching this, don't be surprised the next time the Xfinity Series heads to a short track. We could see some retaliation from Sam Mayer. With that all being said, I'll send it over to Kobe Lambeth as we wrap up another edition of Grid Tonight for a Wednesday.
Yes, glad to be back on a Wednesday. I know last 2 weeks been doing a show on Thursday night, so finally back to our traditional slot. We're going to try to keep it that way unless there are some unforeseen circumstances. And two things before we end our show. Adam was just talking about the vote at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, and SRX did provide an update of how the vote is going right there, and I actually have it on the screen right now, a graphic courtesy of SRX. Right now, Brittany Zamora is on top with the most fan votes, followed by Bubba Pollard is going to be in the SRX race at the Five Flag Speedway. So maybe now, since Bubba Pollard is guaranteed an SRX start, maybe he won't win the fan vote at Nashville, so we can see another driver get a chance to be in that race. And third got Stephen Nasse, fourth Cole Williams, fifth Michael Harrison, dead last Dylan Fetcho in sixth. And we also have a comment in the chat room from Humperdinck responding to our 33 entry segment with the Indy 500. Humperdinck says you've seen people like YouTuber David Lamb make a big deal about the 33 car thing. It's a sad break of tradition, but I'd rather have less cars than force an unprepared field filler. Yeah, Humperdinck, that's a really good point. I remember when IndyCar was really struggling to fill the Indy 500 fill, and they basically had some fill fillers come in so they could race. I think everybody wants to see 33 cars that are competitive and can go out there and a lot of them, well, most of the field have a chance of winning the race instead of just putting together an entry, just so we can say we had a fill of 33. So you do bring up an excellent point there. And with that said, that's it for tonight's episode of Grid Tonight. Please be sure to like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And we also encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon. Invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. Big thank you to Edward Hunter from formerly E-Zone, Amber, and Zachary for buying us one. We greatly appreciate it, and any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit public.com, also known as the stock market social media home. The link below and referral code gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. And looking at our schedule for this week, on Friday, check out a brand new episode of Women in Motorsports, not on its traditional day of Thursday, but it's on Friday because Daniel Zeri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet, will be at Paul Ricard in La Castellette, France, to cover the women racing in the European Le Mans Series season opener. And then Saturday, Grid Live pre-race at noon Eastern. Only got a pair of NASCAR races this weekend on Bristol Dirt, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, and the NASCAR Cup Series, both on prime time on Saturday and Sunday night. And as far as our Grid Live wrap-up show goes, please stay tuned for scheduling updates there. For Adam Lemerise, I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.